I want to talk briefly about dates and times in R, which is it's a very special topic and could require a lot more time. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about how R represents dates and times and how we can use them in kind of arithmetic and data analysis types of computations. Um, so R has a special way to represent dates and times, and they're represented using special data classes. So in the past, we talked about different data types like lists and character vectors and numeric vectors, and so this is just another type of data on top of those kinds of classes. So dates are represented by the date class, and times are represented by two separate classes, the POSIX CT and the POSIX LT class. So dates are basically don't have times attached to them. They're just they represent a day in a year in a month, and the kind of you can think of them in a kind of a year, month, day format. So, for example, this date is 1970 January, and then January 1st. And so internally, the dates are stored as the number of days since 1970 January 1st. That particular detail is not very important, but in case you're wondering, you don't how R actually does calculations based on dates. Times are stored internally as the number of seconds since 1970 January 1st. And so that's, again, another underlying detail that's not very important, but it may be useful to know sometimes. So the way dates in R work is you can take a character string, like this following 1970-0101, and convert it into a date using the as.date function. That's probably the most common way that you'll begin working with dates. And you'll notice that if you print out this object, you'll get something that looks like a character string. Now, it's not actually a character string, but it will print out that way because there's a special print method. Now, if I unclass the object here, you'll see I get the number 0. Remember, because the dates are stored internally as the number of days since 1970 January 1st. And since 1970 January 1st, 0 days from that point, you'll get 0. If I input January 2nd, 1970, then you'll see that underlying is represented as the number 1 because that's 1 day after 1970 January 1st. If you had a date that was before 1970, then they would be represented as negative numbers. But that's just for your a little background. You don't have to worry about the underlying representation. Ultimately, what you need to know is that dates are stored as objects of the date class.